The priest had become very ill and was taken to many doctors, all of whom could not figure out how to cure him. Finally, he was brought to an old physician. After about an hour's examination, he came out and told the cardinals that he had some good news and some bad news. The bad news was that the priest had a rare disorder of the balls. The good news was that all the priest had to do to be cured was have lovemaking. Well, this was not good news to the cardinals, who argued about it at length. Finally, they went to the priest with the doctor and explained the situation. After some thought, the priest stated, "I agree, but under 4 conditions." The cardinals were amazed and there arose quite an uproar. Over the noise a single voice asked, "And what are the 4 conditions?" The room stilled. There was a long pause. The priest replied, "First, the girl must be blind, so that she cannot see who she is having love with. Second, she must be deaf, so that she cannot hear who she is having love with. And third, she must be dumb so that if somehow she figures out who she is having love with, she can tell no one." After another long pause a voice arose and asked, "And the 4th condition?" The priest replied, "Big titties."
A 90-year-old man goes to the doctor for his annual checkup. 15 minutes later, the doctor says, "Your health is good physically, but what about mentally? How is your connection with God?" The old man replies, "Me and God are tight. We are in a real connection. He has even fixed my eyesight for me. Whenever I go to the bathroom to pee, the light turns on, and when I exit, the light turns off." The doctor, astonished, calls his wife and says, "Madam, your husband's physical health is good. I'm calling as I'm surprised with his connection to God. Is it true that when he goes to the toilet to urinate the light turns on and when he exits, the light turns off?" The wife says, "Stupid Robert. He's been peeing in the fridge again."
A 60-year-old man with a history of heart problems ends up on the transplant list. After 9 years, he finally gets to the top of the list. But it takes another 3 years to find a suitable donor. His wife goes with him to every appointment with his doctor and every meeting with members of the surgery team. She discusses every aspect of the operation, his medications, his recovery, and his future quality of life. The entire medical team reassures her that he is a perfect candidate for the procedure and that he should have no problems going forward. His wife waits anxiously at the hospital during the transplant, asking for updates every hour. Finally, after 7 hours, one of the physician's assistants emerges to tell her that the surgery was a success. A few hours later, she's allowed to go and visit him. "Did you say anything about the letter?" she asks. "Yes, dear, I did," he replies. "But right now, they want me to rest." They keep him in the hospital for a week to recover. Every day, his wife asks about the letter. And every day, he reassures her that he would get it. Finally, the day of his discharge arrives. His wife says to the surgeon, "I wanted him to get a letter from you. Did he ask you about it?" "Of course," the surgeon replies. "It will be in with his discharge papers." She takes his belongings and goes to get the car. Just after she walks out, the surgeon asks, "What's this about a letter?" He replies, "She wants you to write up something for her saying that I am healthy enough to have lovemaking." "I can do that," the surgeon answers. The man says, "Can you address it to whom it may concern instead?"
A sweet old lady telephoned the hospital. She timidly asked, "Is it possible to speak to someone who can tell me how a patient is doing?" The operator said, "I can. What's the name and room number?" The old lady in her weak voice said, "Doreen Jacobs, room 604. The operator replied, "Let me place you on hold while I check with her nurse." After a few minutes, the operator returned to the phone and said, Oh, I have good news. Her nurse just told me that Doreen is doing very well. Her blood pressure is fine. Her blood work just came back as normal, and her physician, Dr. Ross, has scheduled her to be discharged on Tuesday. The old lady said. Thank you. That's wonderful. I was so worried. God bless you. The operator replied. You're more than welcome. Is Doreen your daughter? The grandmother said. No, I'm Doreen Jacobs in room 604. No one tells me shit.
A guy suffering with hemorrhoids regularly visits his physician for his ointment application. This time, the physician was on leave for the weekend, so he goes home and asks his wife's help to apply his ointment instead. So he gets ready by going down on all fours, and the wife begins to apply the ointment. After a while, he realizes that his wife is resting only one hand on his shoulder and inquires what was she busy doing with the other hand? The wife calmly replies that she is applying the ointment with the other. Hearing this, he chuckles and says, no wonder the physician is charging me $100 for every visit. It takes great talent to place both the hands on my shoulders and still manage to apply the ointment. 3 men are driving in a car. One is white, one is Mexican, and one is Asian. While driving, they get into an accident and are rushed to the hospital. The 3 men were in comas when they arrived. After being admitted, the nurse found that none of the men had IDs on them. While thinking of what to do, the doctor walks up and asks what's the problem. The nurse says that she doesn't know how to identify the 3 men. The doctors say for now they will have to get generic names. The doctor says, this is John Doe, this is Juan Doe, this is Taekwondo.
Dr. Goldberg was a renowned physician who earned his undergraduate, graduate, and medical degrees in his hometown, and then left for Manhattan, where he quickly rose to the top of his field. Soon he was invited to deliver a significant paper at a conference, coincidentally held in his hometown. He walked on stage and placed his papers on the lectern, but they slid off onto the floor. As he bent over to retrieve them, at precisely the wrong instant, he inadvertently farted. The microphone amplified his mistake resoundingly through the room and reverberated it down the hall. He was most embarrassed, but somehow regained his composure just long enough to deliver his paper. He ignored the thunderous applause and raced out the stage door, never to return to his hometown again, until many years later, when his elderly mother was ill and he returned to visit her. He reserved a hotel room under the name of Smith and arrived under cover of darkness. The desk clerk asked him, "Is this your first visit to our city, Mr. Smith?" Dr. Goldberg replied, "Well, young man, no, it isn't. I grew up here and received my education here, but then I moved away." "Haven't you visited since?" asked the desk clerk. "Actually, I did visit once, many years ago, but an embarrassing thing happened and since then I've been too ashamed to return." Trying his best to console him, the desk clerk replied, "Sir, while I don't have your life experience, one thing I have learned is that often what seems embarrassing to me isn't even remembered by others. I bet that's true of your incident too." Dr. Goldberg replied, "Son, I doubt that's the case with my incident." The clerk asked, "Was it a long time ago?" Dr. Goldberg replied, "Yes, many years." The clerk asked, "Was it before or after the Goldberg fart?"
Ops. If this makes you smile, then please subscribe for more jokes and stay happy.